I am a neon tube bender retired. I retired in 1982. I started making glass in 1948, right after the Second World War. I have worked in numerous shops, including my own. So before we go any further, I would like to mention that these tapes are copyrighted. It is illegal and against the federal law to copy, resell, rent, distribute these tapes. So much for that, and we hope we don't have any problems. Back in 1940s, when I started in business, neon was considerably different than it is now. There was lots of neon, exposed neon, motels, hotels, cafes, mostly and a lot of the tourist places of interest. There were lots of people that were in the business. Some didn't have any business being in the business. Some were out to make a buck, honest or otherwise. Consequently, neon did deplete, went down after plastic signs came in. And it was a good substitute for neon because of the maintenance problem. So neon is very prolific now, more so than lots of people realize. Neon is in the malls, under plastic. You really don't realize that a sign in the mall like that, in a channel letter or contour letter, is illuminated with neon. That's really the only way to illuminate neon. Also, there's a big field in the art, neon art, sculpture, neon sculpture. Neon is a good trade. There's lots of money to be made at it, whether you work for another shop, the wages are excellent, or if you want to operate your own shop, then that's a good business to be in. It's a good money-making business. Okay, but before we go any further, let's fade out now, and we'll get back with another subject in a few minutes. Okay, we are back. We would like to talk about a neon plant. That's P-L-A-N-T, plant. A plant is all of the equipment that it takes to make a neon tube. That is, manufacture the tube, light it up, and make it ready to be put on the sign. Okay, neon is made with either natural gas or bottled gas, such as propane, butane, or something like that. Either one does a good job. Gas, whether it's propane or natural, is not hot enough to melt neon glass. We have to have a booster, such as air. That's where the blower comes in. We have a blower that furnishes air to make the glass hotter. We have to have the right amount of air and the right amount of gas. Consequently, we have an air valve and a gas valve so that we can get the right proportions. Okay. Okay, we have three different kinds of fires, basically. The hand fire, the ribbon fire, and the cross fire. The hand fire is a portable fire. The cross fire is made for making sharp bends, such as L bends and double backs. The ribbon fire is made for making long bends, such as O's, Q's, R's, P's, anything that has a long sweeping bend. Okay, that's enough for that. So we will go on to another subject and get into the different fires, the blower, the pump, choke, bombarder, and all of the equipment. Okay, let's get into table construction. We have two tables that are necessary to make neon glass. One is a pattern table. That's a table like you see here that you put your pattern on. When you come out of the fires, you go onto your pattern on top of the pattern table. Okay, we'll get into the other table in a few minutes. Now, this is not a production shop. However, anyone can build a table, but the table should be approximately as high as it would be comfortable for you to work on. Now, these are two tables put together. They're 36 inches wide. However, most tables are 4 feet by 8 feet. These are 3 feet by 8, but they're two put together. So take that into consideration. And we have a floor about 2 or 3 inches from the bottom. And that's very useful for glass, like you see glass here. That's mostly clear glass, but you can stack all of your glass underneath the table. Of course, if you have a 3-foot table, it's kind of hard to put 4-foot glass under it. You need a 4-foot table, then you have plenty of room for your glass. Some people make a glass rack on the wall, which works nice. The table can be longer. It depends on the situation, the room you have, but you actually need a table at least 4 feet long, 4 feet wide by 8 feet. You know, if you're making straight border, if you're making 8-foot length of glass, you need an 8-foot table. Okay, the table has 2x4 legs, and it's framed 2x4 all the way around with cross pieces. You need your table needs to be level. We don't need a table with a bow in it because that's the way your glass is going to wind up. You need it straight and level because you need to make your glass fairly straight. Okay, on top of the table we have a brown paper, and there's a purpose for that. When it gets messed up, you can take it off, put new paper on, or put paper right on top of the old paper. Now this is what we call neobestos. It's a material that you use for making glass on. It's a substitute for asbestos. We don't use asbestos anymore. It's a hazard. It's you can't even buy it. We use a white paper and a screen, which we have gone into that, or we'll go into it later. No need duplicating. Okay, I'll mention this. This is a block of wood that's fairly thick and heavy, and with holes in it, and that's made for putting your glass in when you, to let it cool rather than laying it on the table. Okay, your tabletop is made, it can be made of plywood or pressed wood or anything like that. This is pressed wood, what we call flake board or pressed board, and so is the shelf below. Okay, that should be enough for the table. And let's talk about the catwalk a little bit. The catwalk is a plywood with 2x4s underneath it, and it has to be, you have to have a catwalk if you have a situation like we have where your hose have to go underneath where you walk, unless you want to stumble over your hose all day long. If your valves and your air and gas line is on the wall, then this is not necessary. But it is necessary if you want to remain other than dead at night, because working on concrete all day is hard on your feet. On top we have a piece of indoor-outdoor carpet. That makes it a lot quieter to walk on. It's pretty noisy otherwise. That's probably enough for the catwalk. Let's get into the fires. Let's talk about a crossfire. That's your main fire. That's the one you will use most. That fire is made for all sharp bends, such as L bends, double backs, wells, tubulations, and you use it probably 10 times more than you will your ribbon fire. Okay, if you'll notice, there are two hoses that come to the fire. One is gas, one is air. The one on the left is gas. That is a needle valve. You must have a needle valve, or you cannot regulate your gas proportionately. It must be metered. You must have the right proportions. The other valve is your air valve, so you have to have the right amount of air, the right amount of gas to make neon efficiently. We'll get back in a few minutes. We'll take a break. Okay, let's get back on the valves. We had a little interruption there. If you'll notice that the gas comes in at the side, it should come in at the side. In other words, your air will go straight through and your gas comes in at the side, and your air will then pick up your gas at this part here, the T. We have a T here. Now, the way we do this is we run it, the way I do it is run it over across the top and back down on the other side with a piece of hose, go into a T, then back here. And that way, that will let your valves stay pretty high. Now, if you do it the other way, you get your valve down here and you're constantly bending over. And if you keep your valves up at the hand level, it makes it much easier. At the end of the day, you won't be quite so tired. Okay, now this is a 5-point crossfire. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each side. It has a sliding base. In other words, you can loosen this base up at the bottom, and this will slide out, or you can, in other words, you can bring it out or bring it back in to suit your own particular need. Also, these are variable. The risers, we call it. They can go up or down. And also, if you'll notice that we have T here that you can adjust your fire however you want it. These were made by DACO in Papillion, Nebraska, by the way, and the fires were made there. The whole thing was made there, all except the brass. Okay, the hose, you can use different kind of hose, but I like to use radiator hose with clamps. If you notice, they are clamped all the way around. Radiator hose is really better than, some people use garden hose. That works all right, but it'll be much safer, and this will last much longer than any other type of hose. Now, plastic hose is not recommended naturally for gas. If you're using gas and air, I think that's okay. But you're not supposed to use gas, whether it's propane or natural or bottle gas or whatever, in plastic. As I said, this is a 5-point crossfire. There are 6-point crossfires, 7-point, 9-point, and I have seen 10-point. Of course, the more tips you have, more points, the hotter the flame. I would like to, if you can, just have another crossfire here, which is, that's also a 5-point, if we can get to this. Let me get it out here a little closer. Now this is the same thing. Everything is the same, except we have 2 valves here that control what we call a center fire. Now that center fire shoots the flame straight up, and it gives you extra heat. It makes quite a difference. And the same thing applies here. You have gas here coming in on the side, and the air coming straight on through. You have your adjustable knob here. It can go up and down or crossways or however you want to do it. Now, you have to have separate air and separate gas for your center fire. You cannot run that off your crossfire gas and air. Now, this is a little bit different situation here, and I'd like to go into that, but right now I think we'll fade out and we'll get back to that in a few minutes. Okay, we're on what we call the air gas manifold. That's on the wall. This is a different setup than what we had with the other crossfire. That's air and the gas, to this crossfire. Now, if you notice that we mix here, that's the same T that we showed on the other fire. You come in at the side, and it's mixed, and the air and the gas then travels in one hose. In other words, your valves are on the wall instead of on the crossfire. Consequently, you can use one hose because you have your air and gas in one hose. This is the gas and the air for another fire. This is the air and the gas for another fire. We'll get into that next. Okay, this is the air and gas for that little center fire that we talked about a few minutes ago. Now, the gas will come in one side. This will be the gas line. Then the air comes in at the bottom. That's the air line. It's mounted on the wall. Now, that's a pretty nice arrangement, because you don't have to, you really don't need a catwalk then, unless you want one, but your valves are at right height. You don't have to stoop over. And suppose we get into the hand fire now. Let's, as I said, this would be for another fire. We'll talk about the hand fire because we are here. This is a hand fire. And the same situation applies here. You mix your air and your gas at this point. Your gas line is here with a needle valve and a small air valve, and it's mixed at this point. And this is a portable fire. There are lots of times that you will not be able to pick up a handful of glass and get it in the crossfire to weld. Consequently, you can take your hand fire over and do the job equally well with the hand fire. And it also serves another purpose on the bombarding table to weld your units onto your manifold. We'll get into that later. So we do have two hand fires here, one in case you need it at the pattern table, and the other one runs over to the pumping table. A pumping table. I got it right. Okay. Suppose we fade out now and we will get on to the ribbon fire. Okay, we have a ribbon fire. A 16-inch ribbon fire. Now that's used for making your long sweeping bends, such as O, C, anything with a curve in it, P, R, Q. We have our valves on the ribbon fire, right on the ribbon fire. Your air and the gas. Now, we have the air line comes underneath the table, so both of them come from underneath the table. They're connected underneath. We'll get under the table in a few minutes and we'll talk about that. But right now, boy, that's nice. Okay, the mixer is inside the ribbon fire. There is no external mixer like there is on the crossfire. In other words, there's no T here. One is the air, and it will say air right on the bottom there. It'll be a short nipple, and you either put your hose on it or put your valve on it. The other one would be G. It would be your gas. The air nipple is 3/8 inch pipe. Your gas is a 1/4 inch pipe. It's a little smaller. If you notice this hose, maybe you can't see it, but this hose is 3/8 inch. This is 1/2 inch. Also, we have clamped at the top. Your ribbon fire, they come with a valve here. I know what it's for. I'm not going to mention it. I usually take them off and throw them away because you can't get in trouble with a valve like that if you know what it's for. So it's best not to even mess with that little brass valve. This is what we call an economizer. When it's all the way down, you have full air and full gas. You flip it up like that, or you can put a spring on it with a foot pedal, and it'll stay up. And when you put your foot pedal down, you mash it down. But the purpose of that is it will, when it's up, then your air is cut down and your gas is cut down, and you have a small flame at the top with a very small amount of air. It's an economizer. That's the name of it. That's what they call it. That's good for the summertime because it eliminates a lot of heat. So when you go to use it, you flip her down all the way, then your flame, you got 16 inches of fire if you're wide open. But this is variable, which can go in and out from about 2 inches to all the way to 16 inches. Now this is 1 inch pipe, 1 inch standard pipe. and it's welded onto a plate, 4 holes, and it's just mounted right onto that plate. And if you want to make your own stands, then you can go to the junkyard and get some Volkswagen brake drums. They make excellent stand. And the reason for Volkswagen, they have a smaller hole, and you can either weld a coupling right into that little hole, and it usually just fits, and screw your pipe in, or you can weld your pipe right into it. But try to get your pipe straight, because if you don't, your fire will be leaning. This is a pretty expensive fire, by the way. They keep going up, and I think around $450 now. This head will come off. Then this leaves your economizer and the rest of it right on your stand. Now the reason for that is if you want to get a 24-inch head, then it will fit right on here. And if you have a 24-inch head and a 16-inch head, then you can go from one to the other. However, I never did like a 24-inch ribbon fire head because that's a lot of glass to handle, and usually you only get about 16 inches anyway. With a 24-inch head, you can do pretty well if you have straight, not straight, but slightly bent, curved, slightly arced. You can get 24 inches without any problem. If you go start making O's and that kind of stuff, with 24 inches, you got your hand full. Okay. Also, your glass is 4 feet long, and with a 24-inch, then you have half of it worked up at one time, whereas with a 16, you'd have 1/3 worked up. But if you have 2 heads, then that makes it much nicer. Okay, let's fade out now, and we'll get back with something else in a few minutes. You done cut me off, didn't you? For you to take note of a ribbon fire that we have that has an automatic cut on and shut off. In other words, when you use the fire, it's on. When you are not using, it's off. That's a great saver on gas or fuel. Also, it saves on heat when you don't need quite so much heat. Let me demonstrate. If you'll notice down at the bottom where you see a pedal, let me come in on it so maybe you can see it a little better. Okay, let me show you how that works. Just hit it with your foot, and it turns the gas on. Take your foot off, and the gas is off. Okay, now let's go on up a little higher, and we'll see a transformer. Just a regular window type indoor transformer, about 7,500, or it doesn't have to be that large really. The case is grounded to the case on your ribbon fire. It's grounded to this point. Okay, if you'll notice, there is a spring that pulls your valve back after you mash it down. Okay, the valve is at this point. It's a 25% valve. In other words, you go 45%. 45. In other words, you go 45 degrees, it's on. 45 degrees, and it's off. In other words, it's quick on and quick off, they call it. Now, you have to have 2 valves. In other words, at this point, we have a needle valve that has to be set. In other words, you have to have both valves on, then set this valve to exactly the amount of gas you want, then it will stay set. In other words, you don't move that valve anymore. Okay, now the sparker that ignites the flame, the hot side of the transformer, as I mentioned, the case is grounded, so the hot side will come on up and into a glass tube with GTO wire. And come on up so you can see it. Okay, right on out the end and to a cat whisker, or a small piece of wire, so that when you turn it on, then it will ignite your flame. Let me show you how we turn it on. I'm going to go wide, and it's hard to see because there's so much banjo stuff around there, but I'll put my finger on it, maybe you can see it. We have a switch here that you hit with your knee. In other words, you turn it on and hit, and that turns, that energizes this transformer and lights your flame. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's turn it on. Turn the blower on. Okay, the gas is on now. Hit the flame, hit the switch, and you got flame. Take your foot off, no flame. Open the gas, hit the switch with your foot. In other words, when you need the fire, you have a fire. When you don't need it, you don't need it, so forget about it. Okay, let me mention one thing in reviewing the tapes. I noticed that I called the hose going to our fires, I believe I called it radiator hose. It's not radiator hose, it's heater hose. I meant to say heater hose. It's the type of hose that you use going to your car heater. I'd like to change that so that it won't be confusing to everyone. Okay, suppose we go on to another part of the program. Okay, we're back. You may wonder about the size it would take to put in a small plant. Well, you never have enough room. However, 10 by 20 you can get by. Actually, you can get by smaller, but you also have to have room to store your glass after it's made. You know, you should have a rack to store the glass, or a wire to hang it, or some means to take care of your glass after it's comes off the pumping table. Also, you should work. We have lots of light here. Of course, we're taping. Now, you don't want this much light while you're making glass, because you'll probably go blind after a while. You can't see your fires. You want a subdued light, not in the dark, not too dark, but you don't want bright sunlight lights shining on it. You don't want bright lights on it. Kind of cut down a little bit, kind of subdue. Okay. Also, if you move into a building and it has white walls all the way around, the first thing to do is paint the walls about 6 or 8 feet up, some kind of dark, neutral color. Now, if you notice, the walls we have here, they're gray. That's for a reason. If you're looking at the fires all day long and you have a white wall with a reflection coming back, then it's terrible on your eyes. However, neutral color like that, it's not too bad. One more thing I would like to mention is that we have two tables here. One table is sufficient if you are going to put a plant in a garage or basement or somewhere in your home. You can do it work on one table. Have your manifold and your pattern table combined. Have everything on that one table. The disadvantage to that is you can't work quite as fast because while you're pumping you can't make glass. While you're making glass you can't pump. Whereas with a separate pumping table you can pump and come back over and start making glass. When that unit has pumped out, you can go back and take it off, gas it, take a unit off, then go back, put another unit on, go back to making glass, and it's much faster that way. But if you're not going to make production glass, if you want a few units now and then, I suggest that making your table a combination. Now, on the pumping table, it has a glass top. In other words, every 2.5 inches is a piece of glass. We went into that on another tape. The reason for that is because when the glass is pumped or pumping or bombarded, while you're bombarding it, it gets hot. And once it's on glass, air can circulate all the way around, and then it will heat evenly, and it will cool evenly. Okay, when you have a combination table, then you have to make other arrangements because you can't put your pattern on top of glass. So you leave the glass off, make some short units, make a J unit, make a hook on one end, hang them up, and then you can place them underneath your table wherever the glass is. And when you get through, discard or hang up or store your glass there. Okay, we want to get into the blower system. You have to have air to mix with your gas naturally, because just natural gas or propane is not hot enough to make glass. Now, if you'll notice, we have a room. It's a room outside, and I didn't want to go through the wall. And I come from the blower to the top of the wall, and then I come over. That's a 2.5 inch pipe. The outlet on my blower is 2.5 inches. It's a good idea not to reduce the size of the pipe until you get to your fires. Okay, now we're coming off here with one fire. So we come down to that's a 1 inch pipe. Come down to 1 inch and over to our air line here. Now if you notice, it's 1 inch all the way, and it's not reduced till it gets to the hose. Now, for the rest of the fires, I continue on with that 2.5 inch pipe. I dropped it down to 2 inches, excuse me. This is 2 inch. Come off the 2 inch into 2 and come on down, and I go underneath the table, then down the center, then I branch out with the hoses going to my fires. Okay, now we have about 8 fires here, so we need lots of air. We need a 2.5 inch line for our air. We need a volume. Not much pressure, we need a volume. Now, if you are putting in 2 fires or 3 fires, crossfire, ribbon fire, and a hand fire, 1 inch is good enough. That'll give you enough air. But if you're putting in a bunch of ribbon fires, a bunch of cross fires, hand fires, you better it won't give you enough air, so you consequently have to put in a bigger line. Also, you'll have to put in a larger blower. Now that's a pretty good sized blower outside. It's a one horse motor on it, whereas most small blowers, it's a small motor, a third, sometimes a half, but usually a third, sometimes a quarter. It doesn't take much air. It doesn't take much motor for a small blower. Okay, another thing too, where your blower makes a little noise and it vibrates. If where you come out of your blower, if you come out with a small piece of pipe, maybe 8 or 10 inches long, then leave a gap 4, 5, 6 inches, then start out with your air line, then take a large bicycle inner tube or a small motorcycle inner tube or an inner tube to fit the size of your pipe and make a coupling in that gap, clamp it down with hose clamps, then that'll take the vibration out of the air line. For instance, if you run it direct right to your blower, your whole air line will vibrate. With a small rubber coupling like that, then it'll eliminate all that vibration. Okie dokie, let's close out for a few minutes and we'll take a break, maybe open up a Coke, and we'll get back in a few minutes. Okay, while we are talking about crossfires, this is another type crossfire. This is what we call, most people call them cannon fires or ball fires. You get more flame. It does a good job for if you're making large glass, but if you want to make small stuff, it's a little too much fire. It's a good fire to have in conjunction with your 5-point or 6-point crossfire. It's a fairly easy fire to learn on, a certain types of bends. It's easier, I believe, to make a double back on it for a student than it would be for on a crossfire. However, you should learn on a crossfire and use this as a secondary fire. Of course, this is the fire. This is not complete. There's no valves or anything on it, but I brought it out here to demonstrate the different fires. Okay, let's go on to another subject. We'll cross out now and get back in a few minutes. I forgot what. Okay, let's go into the pumping table briefly. However, we have already gone into that on the pumping tape, but we will skip briefly across and talk about the table. It is a glass top table. It has glass on the top separated by some small pieces of wood, about 2 inches long. In other words, a piece of glass, piece of wood, piece of glass, piece of wood, right on down. It makes it easier to take the glass off and clean the top of the table, which they do get dirty. The table, this table is approximately 32 inches by 8 feet. And that's about as small, I guess, as you should make, especially in length. And it's made very similar to the pattern table, except it is a little smaller. We have the manifold here. We've talked about that. We have our trolleys with awning pulleys. We have a place here to tighten up the trolley wires. That's eye bolt through a small insulator with a nut on it, and you can tighten up. It's hard to keep these wires tight if you don't have something like that. Underneath we have the vacuum pump. We also have the bombarder at the other end. We have the choke on this end. We'll get to that in a few minutes. I have a small portable hand fire holder, which is handy. You can move it around if you want to put it on your pattern table or wherever you want it. Or I also have one up here, up above, which works real nice. It's a piece of 1/4-inch copper tubing. I hammered it flat on part of it, stuck it in a hole, made a little U-joint there to hang that up with. You have to hang your crossfire up because you can't lay it down because it's got fire on it. Okay, we have a meter at the other end, off the 1 amp meter. Okay, here's something that's handy. Let me get around here. The little clamps. I got these little alligator clips, I think at Radio Shack or any electronics store, and it makes it real handy to go from one unit to another and light it up. Maybe, huh? Yeah. Okay, I don't think you'll have any trouble with your pumping table. Anybody that's part carpenter or can make a table like that. You may have a little trouble with the electrical, but if you're not an electrician, I suggest getting someone that's qualified to run your circuits. I've gone over part of that, but your choke and your bombarder and okay, let's fade out and we'll get on the front end and we'll show you that. Okay, if you notice we have our choke here, that a sliding core choke that slides in and out. We have our momentary contact switch for the bombarder here. Over here we have a switch for our vacuum pump. We also have a switch for our blower. We have a switch for our spark tester. Now it's very important to either put a switch on your spark tester or pull a plug out every time, because if you leave it on, even though you're you can turn it off here. Let me turn it on. You can turn it off here by opening that all the way back, but if you do and leave it that way, you're taking a chance because you may burn it out. Okay, now it's arcing right through that metal, or it's going to arc through your hand. I don't know if that can be seen or not. Or you can light up a tube with it. That'll light the tube up, or you can grab it and light it up. Well, you probably can't see that. But it's coming up through your body, right to your red gas. The sparker is a dangerous piece of equipment in this respect. It will knock holes in glass. If you get close to a thin weld towel, it'll go right through if there's a vacuum on it. Of course, if there's no vacuum on it, then it doesn't make any difference. It's not going to do anything. Let me demonstrate and see if I can knock a hole in Wrong one. Okay. I don't know if you, I think you can see that. That knocked a hole right in it. Now it'll do the same thing if you put this sparker on your manifold. In other words, if you go someplace here, checking for leaks, you're going to find one because you're going to knock one in the hole and knock a hole in it. Let me explain the proper procedure for using a sparker. Let me turn the sparker on. Okay. Now, if you want to hold it away and let the full force of the spark go right in one spot, then you take a chance on knocking a hole in it. That's what I did here. Now, if I had put it on a tube and brought it over to my weld, the chances are it would not have knocked a hole in it. The reason for that is that your spark is evenly distributed all the way around, and it doesn't have a punching power on one spot like it does if you hold it away. Okay. Suppose we go over the tools that we need for the glass table, the pattern table. First, let's start with the blow hose. That's a piece of small surgical tubing, about 5 to 6 feet long is an ideal size. You can get that at your science supply house or your surgical supply house. On the end we have what we call a swivel with a rubber cork that fits inside the glass when you're making glass. And you make your mouthpiece out of a piece of 5 or 6 mil glass that we'll demonstrate later on. Okay, that takes care of the blow hose. Let's talk about a weight which is made from or just a piece of cloth that I made this out of, and I put the bird shot, which I got from a sporting goods house, and it's heavy, and you'll need that, for instance, if you need to hang a piece of glass over the end of the table to weld or whatever you need to do with your hand torch. It comes in very handy. Okay, a pocket knife or some kind of a knife, because you'll always have to scrape paint off of a repair. You know, the block-out paint, you have to get that off. And this is a map wheel. We'll discuss this later. That's for measuring the footage on your glass after it's been made or before it has been made, either one, so you know how to calculate for your transformers. This is just a small compass. Any kind of compass will do. This works real nice because you can use a yardstick, and of course I never do make a big circle, but if you need a larger circle, you can vary it you know, with a yardstick or something else. Just a compass. It comes in handy making patterns. Okay, this is a millimeter gauge for measuring your glass. In other words, if you need to know the size of this glass, you can use that like that, and you can tell that it's 12 millimeter. You can't see it, but it is 12 millimeter. That should be obtained from your sign supply house too. And these are some blocks that come in handy. We used to make them out of asbestos. This is an asbestos block I've had for years, but you can't get asbestos anymore, and you shouldn't get it anyway because it's supposed to be hazardous. This is a piece of oak, or maybe it's not oak, maybe it's a piece of plywood, and this is plastic, but it has to be Teflon plastic, and it's glued right, sandwiched between that piece of plywood. Now, this doesn't work exactly like the asbestos block. It's a little slick till you get to get it roughed up a little bit, then it works much better. But to start with, it will be slick. However, you can sand it and get that slick part off of it before you use it. Okay, so much for that. This I made also in the sheet metal shop. And that's a piece of plastic glued on the side. Where you're turning your electrodes up, if you have any astigmatism at all, they may not be exactly straight up and down. But with this, then when you turn that electrode up, then you can vary it on the side, and you know it's perfectly vertical. You catch one side, get it, then move it to the other side, and that's the purpose of that. Of course, naturally, you have to have a file. This is a better one here, a little larger. A file is used for cutting glass. We'll get into that later. And to sharpen a file, you grind the edges on either a grinder or a sander or some way to get the edges real sharp. Then this is a fairly new one, and this is one I've had for 2 or 3 years. You can see it's ground down to much smaller, because when they get down to so small you can't, they'll break. Then you got time to throw them away and get a new file. They're only $5, $6, maybe $7. I don't remember. But you get them at your friendly sign supplier also, and a marker pencil, which is a felt marker, comes in handy if you need to make an adjustment on a pattern. Electrode holder, this is one that I made. I've used it a lot. I made it out of a piece of aluminum tubing. Of course, you can buy them. This is a bought one, and it's a little different style, a little different type. This is a 12 mil, this is a 15 mil. You have to have different size electrodes for different size tube holders for different size electrodes. Naturally, you know what this is. A Bic lighter, which is handy for starting your fires. A transformer chart, you can get that at your sign supplier also. Your footage chart, which is handy, and chalk for marking your glass. Let's mark this piece of glass. I think you can see that. And it stays marked even while it's hot, so that's very important. And also, there's soft chalk and then there's hard chalk. Get the soft, it works much better on glass. And also, I had a pencil. Yeah, this a Stablo. This is a Stablo pencil, which marks very well on glass. Maybe you can see that. It also marks on plastic. That you get that at your sign supplier also. Okay, that should be enough for the tools we use on the bench. There are many more tools, but we'll get into those later. Okay, let's talk a little bit about glass, the different sizes of glass. Glass comes in various sizes from 5 millimeter to 25 millimeter. However, the most common sizes are 5 millimeter to 15 millimeter. The larger sizes, such as 18, 20, and 25 millimeter, was used exclusively for lighting. However, neon lighting anymore is not used very much. It's not real good lighting. It's a real expensive lighting, and also you have a maintenance problem more so than you do with conventional fluorescent tubing. Okay, let's start with the 5 millimeter. This is a piece of 5 millimeter. It's very small. There are also 6 millimeter, which is used for the same purpose, and that's what we call tubulating. It's not used to make neon. It's used for one purpose, and that is to tie onto the glass, to tie onto the manifold, and pump a vacuum, gas it, bombard it, and make the tube light up. Okay, so much for the small. This is also clear, and 5 and 6 millimeter comes in clear only. It doesn't come in any other color. Okay, we'll go on up. This is a coated tube. This is probably white. It comes with a cork in the end, but not anymore. This is an old piece of glass. Okay, this I think is about 8 millimeter, maybe 9. This is probably 10. We can measure it here, like I explained a few minutes ago. It's 10 millimeter. Okay, that's clear glass with a fluorescent coating on the inside of the glass. That if we gas this tube with blue gas, then we'll get white. If we gas it with red, we will get another color, such as peach or flesh, salmon, coral. There are several names for that. Okay, if it's a blue tube, we'll get what we call a rose. If it's a green fluorescent coating, we'll get an orange or a tangerine. We can get into that later also. This is another tube this is 13 millimeter. It's another size. They also make 12 millimeter. This is I don't know what color, turquoise. This is a turquoise coating. Now, if we gas this tube with blue gas, we get a turquoise color. If we gas it with a red or neon gas, then we will get another color, which would be similar to the white. Okay, this is a 15 millimeter tube. This is clear. This tube would be pumped and gassed with red gas or neon gas. Then you'd have what we call a clear red. You can gas it with blue, but clear blue is not a practical color, and you very seldom see it anymore. Once in a great while, but I'd stay away from the blue, clear blue. It's not a very good color. Okay, the glass comes 48 inches in length. This is a full length, 48 inches. It's always 48 inches. That, as I said, it's got a cork in it, but they haven't used corks in glass in 20 years, so forget about the corks. They come just like that without anything on the end. Okay, this is a clear, small clear piece of 25 millimeter. I'll just show you the difference. That's exactly the size of a quarter, so that's large glass. You've never used that. seldom ever. Okay, then we get into the colored tubes. Now these glasses are clear but colored. Some are coated, but their glass is colored. It's not clear glass. This is what we call ruby red. It's a hard glass to work. It's an expensive glass to buy. It's a real nice color. Artists like to use it. It's a deep red, real deep. This is one of the new colors that we did come out with in the past few years. It's a blue, but it's a coated glass, and it's also a colored glass, which makes it pretty expensive. This is what we call a Noville yellow. That's also a yellow tube with a coating. Noville is almost always coated. It's coated white, but it makes a yellow when you pump it with argon gas, blue gas. And you never or seldom pump it with red. There's no point in pumping it with red gas. That's also, all colored glasses are expensive. Okay, that should take care of the glass. We'll get into different glasses later on when we start making glass, which will not be too far in the future. Okay, let's close out and fade out now. Tool. The way we do that is with the file. We'll file the top and roll it slightly so that your groove will be cut probably a third of the way around. In other words, don't file just exactly on top, because that's not very good. Then to cut it, you put a little pressure on it, which I did accidentally there, as you can see. But you can take like that and cut the glass. Just a little pressure, pull against it slightly and bend it, and it'll come in two. Let's do another way. Let's put it down, put a little something under it to hold it, hit the end of it. Let's put pressure on it, and that causes it to bend and break. There's also another way we can do it. It cuts it pretty good. There are lots of ways to cut the glass. Okay, let's go on to another. Take a break, and we'll go on to another part of the tape. Okay, let's talk a little bit about patterns. If you'll notice that we have a pattern on some white paper. We have a piece of copper screen or bronze screen that we can put on top of the paper to keep from burning our pattern. Okay, the advantage to that is that you can store these patterns very simple. They don't take much room. We used to use asbestos, but you know what happened there. You can't buy asbestos anymore. That worked very well, but storage was a problem because it did take lots of room. Now, I'm not going to use this screen due to the fact that you can't see the pattern through the screen. We'll do another method here, but I wanted to demonstrate that this is really the best way to make glass as far as the pattern is concerned. Okay, now if you'll notice, well, you probably can't see that, but these letters are backwards. They have to be reversed. In other words, the G on this side is the way that it will look when you see it, but when we make it backwards. Let me show you why. Well, here's the G here. If you'll notice that we have all this, that's on the back, on the rear. We need the face flush. We need this garbage on the back. That's all painted out, and we don't want that on the face of the letter. That's the reason we have to reverse the pattern and make it backwards. Okay, so much for that, but we'll get into that more later on. Let me discard this, and we'll get into this. Now this is an asbestos substitute. It's a cloth that works very well. If you'll notice, I have a few patterns on here. We're going to make these one right after the other. There's a complete alphabet, a 7-inch letter, A, B, C, D, right on down the line. There are some letters we're not going to make. Some are simple, and some are very similar. But on this tape, we'll make most of these letters. We're making 13 millimeter clear glass, for instance, we won't make the F because it's very similar to the E. We won't make an I. We won't make a J. 8 or 10 letters there that we'll jump right over and don't fool with because they're not necessary to duplicate. Okay, suppose we fire up the plant and we'll go into making A, B, C right on down the line. Okay, and you can hear a blower in the background. The blower furnishes air for our fires. In other words, propane gas or natural gas is not hot enough by itself to melt glass. So we mix air with the fires. We have gas and we have air. They have to be mixed proportionally. Okay, the gas, I'm gonna turn the gas on and light the fire, and naturally it'll probably flare up a little bit. Then I turn the gas down to adjust it like I want it. Now if you notice, I didn't adjust the air. There's no reason to adjust the air every time you light the fire. In other words, if you adjust the gas only, leave the air like it is after it's once set, there's no need to adjust the air. Okay, we have our fire. This is a 5-point fire. It's the smallest, about the smallest fire. We have 5-point, 6-point, 7-point, on up to, I have seen 10-point. But this does a good job, and first thing we will do, we'll make welds. I'll demonstrate how to make a weld. Okay, we'll take some of the glass that we demonstrated on cutting, and we'll get a cork. We have to have a cork in one end. Cork. Let me see. Let me get a cork. Okay, we have corks. Let's take and plug one end up like that. Now we have a cork in one end. We don't have anything in the other end. Now, when we put the glass together, we got to have, we blow in one end, and that's the reason for the cork, naturally. Okay, you hold the glass with your palms up always, never reverse like that. If you go to make a bend, it would be awful awkward to do it that way. So we hold it with our palms up and we roll it between our fingers like that. When we go into the fire, we always go in straight, never like that or crooked like that, always straight. There may be some occasions you may have to, in other words, if your glass is not cut straight, sometimes you may have to work it at an angle to get the glass together. Okay, now the glass should be heated till it's red all the way around. Each piece should be red. Go down below the fire, touch it together lightly, as lightly as you can, and make sure that it is together. Then come back into the fire, heat it some more, take it out, blow it out, pull it out, and then you should have a weld. Let's try that. Okay. Go in. I'll hold this at an angle so maybe you can see it better. It should be straight, but I'm going to go in at an angle. And also I'm going to put my finger over this part, because if I don't, then the fire will go right straight through the glass, and I'll wind up with one piece of glass in my hand, because it will get the glass pretty hot. And by the way, that's the first thing you're going to learn, is where the glass is hot. Okay, let's go in, and I will blow my mouth on this, then we'll go into the blowholes on other stuff. Okay, I'm going to go in and heat the glass all the way around. I'm rolling it between my fingers like I demonstrated a few minutes ago. It's red all the way around. Going down below the fire, touch it together lightly. I'm going to take it out and give it one little puff, blow it out just a little bit. Put it back in the fire, rotate it, keep it moving, and then after it's welded together, blow it out a little past its original diameter, and as it cools, pull it out. I'm going to take it out. One thing I'd like to mention is always exert a very small amount of pressure against your bend or your weld. Not much, but a small amount. In other words, if you don't, then you'll wind up with a thin bend or a thin weld, and that's not good. Okay, suppose we make an L bend, a 90-degree bend. Let's take another piece of glass, about like this. It's 13 millimeter. We'll take a piece of chalk. Suppose we want our L bend at this spot. Well, here, this is an L bend. We'll make an L bend here. Okay, if we make our mark at this spot, now you can see where we are at. We're right at this spot here, right at this cross. Not here, but right in this, at that point. And make our bend, and we'll go right straight on around. Okay, this is 13 millimeter. Let's take about 13 millimeter from here to here on each side of where we're going to hinge a glass. Okay, let's heat from this point to this point to this point to this point and roll the glass back and forth. All back and forth. Okay, then when the glass has become molten, soft, now all the time we're exerting a small amount of pressure against the glass. The reason for that is because we need to gob the glass. We need a little thicker at this point than we do here, because we're going to make a bend and it's going to be stretched. In other words, we're going to stretch it out a little bit when we make the bend. And if you don't do that, then you wind up with a real thin bend. Okay, let's go in and we'll give it a shot. Okay, back and forth from one mark to the other mark. Back and forth. Keep up a steady rhythm, not like this. Move it 360 degrees all the way around. Back and forth. Okay, it's beginning to get soft. I'm exerting a small amount of pressure to the center of the glass. And if you'll notice, it's beginning to sag slightly. Let it sag. Let your mark straight up where you're going to bend. Heat the bottom slightly. Take it out. Pull it out slightly. Make your bend. And blow it out. Mark. Okay, let's make one more. Take your chalk. Make a mark here, here. Okay, we're going to do the same thing, heat from here to here, here to here, rotate it all the way around. Now, if you'll notice that I have something here that you can follow me turning the glass. Okay, here we go, round and around. Back and forth, around and around. Keep up a steady rhythm, like you're dancing. Make out like you're on the dance floor. I need a little more gas. Yeah, that ought to do it. I had to adjust my fires a little bit. Now, if you'll notice that the hottest spot on the flame is just above the center. The heat rises. Okay, Heat the bottom slightly, take it out, pull it out, make your bend, and blow it out. Another L bend. While I'm doing this, I'm going to bring the screen down and do this on the screen. You don't have to see anything underneath it, so it doesn't make any difference. Okay. Let me cut this off. Okay, to make a double back, let me find it. Here's a double back here. Let's make a mark where we want to make our double back. Now to make the double back, we'll mark the glass at that point, right at the very top of your double back. Not down below, not above, right at the very top. That's where we mark our glass. Okay, I'll bring the screen down a little bit. Okay, we'll do the same thing that we did with an L bend, except we'll make it a little bit longer because we've got to heat a little more glass. Make it a little bit, maybe over 13. Well, this is 13, so make it a little over 13, maybe 16 or 18, one and a half times, maybe. Okay, cork in one end. Okay, let's make the double back and forth. Don't ever stop. Keep up a steady motion. Glass is getting molten. It's soft. It's sagging. Let it sag. Heat the bottom a little bit. Take it out. Pull it out. Make your bend. And blow it out. about like that, back and forth. We'll make another double back. Okay, back and forth, all the way around. Now, there's really no reason to go like this. There's plenty of time. Just take your time, but keep up a steady motion. Let it sag. Keep the bottom slightly. Take it out. Pull it out. Make your bend. And blow it out. Let me give a demonstration of why we have to pull the glass out after we've heated it. Let's make a mark at this point, and we'll heat from here to here. Okay, I'm supposed to make an L bend. Let's make an L bend, and we'll heat a small amount of glass back and forth. Now, I'm gathering the glass, I'm pushing against it. I'm exerting a small amount of pressure. If you exert too much, you screw up your glass good. But just enough to keep from pulling it out. Okay, now then after we get it out, we need to pull this out. But I'm going to heat the bottom, then on 1 second do it like that. Make my bend, and we wind up with another L bend. Now the reason I drop it, let it hang, is because I was demonstrating that you do have to pull it out slightly as you make your bend. Okay, let's go into, let's make a compound bend, which is a little more complicated. So it's actually a double bend. It has to be made together at the same time. Let me get a little more glass. Okay, we'll make a double back at this point. Just make a regular double back. Now, if you notice, I did not make 3 marks. I only made 1. But after you get a little practice and a little experience, you will not have to make so many marks. Just make 1 mark, because then you will know how far to heat the glass. Okay, it's soft. Heat the bottom, take it out, pull it out, make my bend. 1 puff, and I blow it out. Okay, now we have a okay, let's see, what do we have here? Suppose we drop this top piece of glass down to the lower level. Now, that would be a 90-degree bend. However, it would be 90 and drop. It'd be actually 2 bends in 1. Now, if we want to drop it at this point, in other words, have it fall at that point, then we would mark it at this point, straight up from this mark. Then we'd have to heat probably from this point to this point. Okay, let's give it a shot. Okay, we're heating all the way across the glass from 1 mark to the other mark. Now, we have to heat a little more glass here than we would for a double back, because it is a longer bend. This bend, it takes a little more practice. Some people pick it up pretty fast, others go crazy trying to learn it. But we will attempt to make this bend and make it uniform. Okay, let it fall. Okay, turn your glass slightly, let it fall, and blow it out. Okay, now, you cannot let your glass come in contact with this, because if you do, you got big trouble. It will break. And when you heat that much glass on one side, you should take and heat just a little bit on the other side. Sometimes that will break if you don't do that. Okay, that's so much for that bend. Okay. Let's start our ABCs. We'll start with the A. Let's get rid of our copper screen. We're not going to use it anymore. Okay, let's get a piece of 4-foot neon glass. Now this is what we call a blow hose. It has a mouthpiece on one end, and it have a swivel on the other end and a rubber stopper cork on the other. Now that is what we blow in to make our bend from now on. We can't blow into this end here because we can't get it through our mouth. It's 4 feet long, and it's too long to handle unless you use a blow hose. Okay, if we start with the A, we know that we have to have enough glass to have a handle at the end to handle it. So we will leave a little bit of glass to handle, and we know that we make a bend here, and we know that we make a bend here. In other words, what we will do is follow this on around so that we know where we come out on the end of our glass. Now, if we start at the wrong place, we can wind up in a box and can't get out of it. We don't want to start here. So what we'll do is start at this point, come on around, make this double back, come over and drop down, then make this bend last. In other words, we are doing the inside, and when we work around the outside, easier than work from the we can work from the inside out easier than we work from the outside in. Okay. Suppose we make, I won't need all this, I'm going to cut part of it off. We're only going to make one A here. Okay, let's make this bend now, and that's a little bit over the 90 degrees, maybe 105, something like that. Okay, now I'm not going to make the 3 marks like I have been making, because we've had enough experience now practicing that we don't need the 3 marks. Sorry about that. Trying to talk and work too. Okay, we're back in business. Okay, the glass is getting soft. A little bit of pressure against the glass. Heat the bottom. Take it out, pull it out. Make your bend. Now you can see that's a little over 90 degrees, which should be about right. Okay, that we're on the pattern. Now I'll make a double back. And let's see. Yeah, I'll make a double back. Let's make it this way. I'm going about this the wrong way. Let's make it at this point. We'll make our double back. Same way, 1 mark. If you notice, I'm rotating the glass 360 degrees all the way around. Not fast, but just barely enough to keep it moving. Then I'm let my glass sag a little bit, take it out, blow it out, make my bend. One double back. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this blowhole for the time being. Okay, now we can either make this bend now, or we can make this bend. So let's make this bend. Now, this bend is made. I marked right at this V. Then I heat from here all the way over to here. Then when I drop it down, like I demonstrated on the other a few minutes ago, drop it and turn it. And we have to heat a little bit more glass than we do ordinarily. Now I showed you how to temper the glass on the back side a few minutes ago. We will not have to do that now, because we are heating right at the L bend, and that glass is hot, so we won't have any problem with it. Keep it moving. Okay. Let her fall down. Blow it out back to the original diameter. Put it on your pattern. Now, you know that this is supposed to be straight, so if you turn it up like that, that's going to straighten it out. If you look down it, you see it's straight. So you don't have to put it right on your pattern to get it straight. Even your pattern may be crooked. Okay, now we are at a point here that it's over a 90-degree bend, and it's not 180. It's not, I wouldn't know exactly what, probably 150 degrees. So we will have to go halfway between is the way that I do it. And in other words, it's halfway between the 90, halfway between 180. So I go halfway between my mark right at that point. And it'll usually work out pretty close. back and forth. Okay, another thing I'd like to mention, always let the gravity work on your bend. In other words, let your bend hang at the bottom, never upside down or sideways. Always let your bend fall like that. Make your bend, blow it out. Okay, now so I'm going to cut my glass. Okay, the same thing here. We need to come out a little bit so that we will have enough for a handle. We know we have to make a mark here, but we can't make that bend now because if we did, we'd be in a box. So we'll make a mark there so that we know where we're at, and off my mark. Let me use this is a Stabilo, S-T-A-B-I-L-O pencil. It marks on glass. It's a good pencil for that kind of. If you notice, you can see that mark pretty easily. Now we come on around. We have to make this bend first. That's a ribbon heat. In other words, it's about a 6 or 8 inch bend, 5 or 6 inch. Okay, where the glass, where the pattern leaves the glass, we'll make a mark. In other words, where your pattern starts to bend, we'll make one mark. Now we have to know where to make the other mark. Let's follow this right on around so we'll know where we are. About there. Okay. Another way to do it is take your blow hose and measure. About like that. Works out the same thing. Okay, that's 2 ways to do it. Always keep your table clear, because if you have a bunch of glass when you lay your glass down your pattern, you don't want to lay it on top of something. Okay, let's go to the ribbon fire. Let me move this out of the way so we can tell what we're doing on the ribbon fire. The ribbon fire is a 16-inch fire, and it's varied by a slide. Let's turn our gas on. Pull our slide out a little bit. It also makes a little noise. Okay, we are ready to now we vary the slide to where that in other words, if this is 6 inches that we want to heat, then we will put our slide where the flame will be approximately 7 inches. In other words, we want to go a 1/2 inch past a mark on each side. Okay, measure it, that's pretty close, and we'll put it in and start heating. Now, all we have to do on this is rotate it. Hold it over the flame and rotate it. Just keep turning it. You don't have to move it like we do on the crossfire. Now it'll do the same thing. It will get soft and it will sag. So keep turning it. Let it fall down in the flame to heat the bottom a little bit. Take it up, blow it out, and put it on the pattern. Okay. You see the reason I don't like this stuff, it gets pretty brown. Okay, we're going to make a double back here. We'll have to make our double back at this point. We'll have to get back into the crossfire. I'll get over here, make a double back. Make a double back, put it on the pattern. Get rid of our blow hose. Okay, now we have the same bend here that we had here. It's approximately the same distance, so there's no need to measure again. So we'll just make one mark from here back. Swap our cork. Back in the ribbon fire. Let the gravity work on your bend, let it fall. I'm going to turn that out for now, and we'll get back with it later. We'll finish up our V. Okay, we want to make a double back here next, because we got to get that. That will either go to another letter or in the can or in the sign or someplace else. It won't be this way. It's got to be moved. So we'll make a double back. Let me swap that. The reason I keep swapping my blow hose from one side to the other, I like to move my cork. In other words, I'm going to make my bend here, and the only thing I'll be moving is my cork. Now if I move this, my blow hose, and I'm swinging that big thing around there, and it's more bulky. So I'm going to just move my cork, go in the fire, make a double back. bit too much gas on the, I'll turn it down a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna make a mark for my L bend. So that's coming on down. Now, if you'll notice that if I bring this down to here, I've got to make a heat here to go someplace else. So if I bring that down here, then if I make a heat here, I'm gonna screw up this double back because I'm too close. So what I'm going to do is bring it down about like that. Then I'll make this bend, and then I'll heat slightly out at this point and bring it right together. There's another way to do it. We can measure down here and make this bend and then bring it down, but I like this way best. So we will go ahead and make this L bend. Heat the bottom slightly, take it out, pull it out, blow it out. Okay, now I'm going to make a mark for this bend. Bring it out. And that will be opposite of what we did a few minutes ago. In other words, from going to the upper level to the lower level, we'll go from the lower level to the upper level. Okay, now we can't heat this 90 because it'd be much easier to come back here and heat slightly and bring it down rather than get right on top of our 90 degree. So I'll take and heat at that point, and we do not have to heat too much. As soon as it begins to get soft where we can bend it, we can go ahead and make our bend. A B. Okay. Let's go ahead and make another letter on down the line. Let's make an S. That's got some special heats in it that I want to demonstrate, and I can demonstrate it on that letter easier than I can on a C or D or something else. An S, okay. That's probably enough. Get a cork. Now, an S is made in two heats. this heat, and this heat. Now, anytime you heat glass in a ribbon fire, a long heat like that, like we have to do here, it's heated evenly. And when you bend it, it will bend evenly. For instance, if you'll notice, this has a very slow bend here. Then it gets real sharp, real fast right through here. Now, if we heated this much glass and heated it evenly, it would bend slow here, and it would you'd wind up down here. That's not good. So what we will do is we will make a mark where we want to start our bend and make a mark where we want to end our bend, for instance here. Now, and we'll also come back here and we'll make a mark here. I'll usually make 3 marks there. There's where we need what we call preheat. In other words, what we'll do now is put this in the fire, heat it, maybe this much for maybe 8-10 seconds, and then we'll heat all this. Now, when this is heated first, then it will be hotter than that. Consequently, this will bend more than it will here, and it will follow the contour of our letter much better. So if we this is strictly a guess. You just, of course, with experience, you'll know about how much to preheat. You have to preheat enough, but you can't preheat too much. But it's not real critical. On something like that, I will count maybe to 8 as I'm preheating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'll come over and heat the rest of it. We'll try that, see if that works out. Then if this works out perfect, then when we come down and make this one, then that will work out. Okay, let's fire up. Okay, now I'm going to start preheating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm coming around and heat the rest of it. Now when you take the glass out of the fire, make sure that all of the glass is heated, because the preheat's going to heat first, and if you get it out too soon, then the only place you'll bend it is at the preheat. So you can look at it and tell, you know what an S looks like. So it looks like an S. So let's put it on a pattern. Oh, excuse me. And it follows pretty good. Let me get a block. Okay. Now, if we make, what we should do now is let that cool completely. Because this is hot here, and if we reheat it, then we'll lose it. This will be plenty hot if we reheat it. Let it cool completely, and we'll get back with that. Okay, suppose we're going to take a break, and then we'll get back in a few minutes. Finish our S. Well, it should be cool by then. Okay, our glass is cool. We're back on the pattern. Let's measure Let's mark from here. Do the same thing we did on top. We'll make a preheat here, follow on around to that point. Okay, let's preheat. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Set my cork on fire. Okay, my preheat is getting soft. The rest of it's getting soft. I think I can make my S now. Okay. One S hot here. Let's get back on our C now, since we've gone over preheats. If you notice, I'm using a block. This is a block I've had for years. It is an asbestos block. However, asbestos is not good. I ought to throw it away. Let me get another block that this is a block that's made with a piece of wood sandwiched between two pieces of Teflon. That's 1/16" Teflon that's glued to a piece of wood. And that's a safe block. Teflon takes lots of heat, so you can use that very easily on your glass. But we'll use that from now on and forget about the asbestos. That's bad information. Okay. Well, we make a C. Maybe this is long. This is long enough. Now we'll do the same. We'll do the same thing here that we did with the S. We'll start here, and then we'll make a preheat here, and we'll come on around and make half of this at one time, from here to here. Now this is a preheat. I've got to find another cork. I'll burn that other one up. Okay. Lost my mark. Oh, here it is. Okay, we'll preheat. Probably about 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Same way. Okay. Top part of our seat. Before we go ahead, while that's cooling, we'll make a double backet. Well, that's kind of short. Maybe I better not. Well, I can do it this way. Maybe. Okay, we're going to let this cool, and we'll start a D. Get a little measure here so I know where we're going to wind up. This D, we're making one heat all the way around. Now, if you'll notice, we need a preheat just a little, slightly there, slightly here, and wind up here. Preheat here, go from here to here. Now we won't preheat as much here, maybe half as much. Let's say 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you know what a D looks like, what your glass should look like to follow the pattern. Take it out, take a look at it. It looks pretty good. Block it on around. Let's make a double back at this point. I lost my pencil. Make a double back here so we can handle it. Okay. Now we have the same problem here we do with our B. We should bring this down and leave it away because we got a double back here, and then we'll bring it in. Okay, we're going to make our other bend here. D. D is in dog. Okay. Let's make an E, and we're going to make an E out of 2 pieces of glass. We'll start at this point. We'll make this bend, and we'll have the weld right at this point. Well, now to do it, to make a weld and make a bend, you have to do it a little bit differently. Instead of heating just the edges of the glass to make the weld, let's heat a little more, maybe ½ inch on each side. Then we're hot all the way across. Make our weld, and then we can go ahead and heat it just like we would for a 90. Make our bend, and we'll go like that. Okay, let me get a little closer here. Okay, now let's just make out like we're going to make an L bend, except we're using 2 pieces of glass. You notice we're going from one side to the other. Okay, you're getting pretty hot. Let's heat all the way around, make our bend, and blow it out. Okay, let's keep heating now. One side to the other, just like an L bend. Okay, let it slide, take it out, pull it out, make your bend. Blow it out. Okay, that's a good way to do it. If you have a bunch of scrap glass, then you don't have to waste so much glass. You can tie a small piece of glass onto a longer piece, or take 2 short pieces and go ahead and make your bend. You can see the weld, but it's pretty well welded in. Okay, let's go ahead and make our double back. Screw that one up. Let me I don't have not enough heat there. Let me weld this and start over again. Okay, let's finish that E out. Hey. Okay, much better. Now we make a mark like us right at this point. Fall down, make your bend, blow it out. Excuse me. Okay, that's an E or an F, either one. Another L bend here to make an E, or this is an F, and you'll do it. Stop right at that point. There's one more bend I'd like to show you. Let's go, for instance, say we want to raise up and go over this K and down. Let's make a raise and go straight on up and over. This is a fairly easy bend to make, but you'll make a lot of them in making glass. Heat about as much glass as you would for an L bend. Bend that up, bring this down, blow it out. Okay, now if you're going over to this K, then you can drop down and go ahead and make your K. You'd probably, a letter that size, you wouldn't make individual letters. You'd probably make about 3 letters in one unit. In other words, A, B, C, D, E, K, M, N, O. That takes care of E and F. Let's go on down and let's make the K. the double back. I started at this point and we made this double back, so now we have to drop this down about like that. Now this will have to heat quite a bit of glass. There's two ways to do this. You can do this on a ribbon fire, but this would be faster. We don't have a ribbon fire lit. This is another double back, and we go down on the other level. Okay, now you notice I can't get this down as low as I want it, so I'll have to show you how we do that. I'll go ahead and make this bend now. I've got it marked at this point. When it comes down, it will be at that point. Okay, here we go. Down, blow her out. Okay, now it won't go all the way down because it's too far. So what we'll do now is take and heat here, drop it right down. Only way we can do it. That's practical. Okay, she rolled flat on the table now. Okay. Okay, let's make an O. That's a little tricky. We'll have to get back in the ribbon fire. It preheats to the O, so let's make a mark here. We'll make a mark about here. Okay, now we will heat from this point to this mark. And then we'll heat from this point to this point. We'll make our double backs, and then we'll bring them together. So let's make this heat now. We'll make our double back at this point. That's preheat about this point. Now this is not much of a preheat. Maybe 3 or 4 golden age. And we'll whack it off about here. Okay. Let's go in the fire. Move this out of the way. Okay, preheat. 1, 2, 3, 4. About like that. We'll make a double back at this point. Okay, we can't go any farther until we cool. So let's jump back on the C. We never did finish that. We'll do the C. Start about here, come on around, do a little preheat. Now this double back will not take very much heat because it's already hot. It was in a ribbon fire, so you can see it's pretty fast. See, okay, let's check our O and see if that is okay. We are at this point. Let's make a mark here. That will be our register mark at this line. Now when we come back and put it down, then we have to make sure that it's not at this. Let's make another mark. This will be the register mark this time. When we come back, then this mark will have to be at this mark, because if we don't, our O will be either too long or too short. Okay, now we need a little preheat here. Make a little mark there for preheat. We're going to heat now from this point to this point. This will be left flat, intact. Okay? No preheat. Let's make this double back. Look like an O much, but it will when we complete it. We'll have to let this cool. I'll tell you what, suppose we start to R. Let that cool. Do this like we did the E. where we make a weld and a double back. We put the weld in the center of the double back. I'm going to use my blow hose on this. Okay. Okay. We want to make this curve here, so we'll start about here. Let's measure that with our blow hose. That much. Let's check our Oh, here it is. Okay. Now we have two marks here, one here and one is here. That's this mark and that's this mark. We'll heat that much and bring it together. Now, as soon as it begins to get soft, push it on together. I didn't put it on a pattern, but one old. Okay, let's do the R. From this point to this point. the R a little different then. Well, that's one way to make an R. I think I'll make this R differently. Do it one more time. I'll show you how to make the drop on the ribbon fire. Okay, this can be made on the ribbon fire, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to heat from about that point to that point and drop it down. Okay, we have an open sign, OPEN. It's a 6-inch open. That's pretty much the standard size for window signs. Now we'll make this out of 12 mil clear, because if we make it with a coated tube, then it would read open even when the sign is off. So we'll use clear 12 millimeter, and the first thing we will do, we will start with our O, because then it can be cooling while we do something else over here. And soon as the sign is made, we'll put it on a pattern table, a pumping table, and get it ready to pump, which we will do on the next tape when we start putting gas in the tube and pumping. Let's take our pencil and get a mark here, like I showed you yesterday on making an O. Let's start about here and move right on around and stop at this point. Okay, we're going to heat from here to here on the ribbon fire, and this bend is a little sharper at this point, so we'll do a little preheating here so that it will follow on around. Okay, get my Bic lighter, light the ribbon fire. At this point, we'll preheat. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's plenty. Okay, we must use our extra marks like we explained yesterday. That mark has to come right to this point. This one should come at this point. Okay, now we must double this back to get it out of the way. I'll turn the ribbon fire off because it does make a little noise. Now this is just a regular double back. Okay, suppose we drop down here because we know we have to come up to it for our P. There's our mark. This will be a drop. And drop 90. And while we're doing this, the ribbon heat is cooling. Okay, now we can't go ahead and make this bend next, but we must make this bend last. In other words, we can go from here right on around to here. Make this bend and this double back, and then make this bend. Okay, we'll go that route. Then we're making two letters at once. We're not making each individual letter and welding them together. Okay, next we make our double back here. We have to get that out of the way. Okay, we're ready for our next heat on our O. So we'll have to make another mark here and move on around to this mark, and we're going to heat down to here. And we have to do the same thing here that we did there. We're going to have to preheat slightly at this point. One, two, three, four. we can get by with that. Okay. Let's make a double back here, get that out of the way. Okay, we make our last bend on our P now. Getting a little hot to handle, but I think we can make it. Fits the pattern pretty good. We have one more bend now to make on the OP. We got to heat from here to here and bring our O down and put it together. Let that cool. We'll make the EN. Okay, we know we have to get back here to weld our OP to the EN, so let's give ourselves plenty of room for a handle and to get back there. We know we have to go to this point, and we have to turn around and come back, and then go down to here. So let's make this bend. This bend at this point. Make this bend next. Okay, so we'll make our double back here. have to drop down, make a 90 drop. We make our mark at this point. And heat from about this point to this point. Remember, you have to stay clear when you make a bend like that. You can't let it touch. If you do, it's big trouble. Sometimes when you lose your blow hose, it's big trouble. Let's make this 90, this L bend, this 90 at that point. Next. I put that on reverse, but you know if it fits this way, it'll fit the other way. A little faster that way. Now we must make our double back here. Big trouble. Yeah, I'll get rid of that thing. Okay, moving right along. The fast way is to go right straight across like that and go into your end. But I'd like to raise this, then drop it back down, which makes for a better unit. So we'll raise this up. what goes up must come down, so we'll go back down. We'll go ahead and finish our end. Now this is almost a double back, so I marked it almost to the top of the bend. Do the same thing here. Now when we keep this up in the air, then when we drop it back down with this bend, puts it right back on the pattern. To catch our P, and then we have to hold that in the air because when we bend our P back, it's in the air. So we'll make this one bend. It's about a 45-degree bend. It's not very much. About like that, and we'll blow it out, and then we'll see where we're at. That's pretty close. There's an EN, as in open. Okay, let's complete our O. Here to there, okay? Okay, we have to bring this up to this point so we have to match this. I want to move that part of this O and see if I can straighten it up. Got one little flat side. Okay, OP and an EN. We'll put them together, but first let's do a little electroding. We'll electrode each end and tubulate. We'll go through that process. Okay, when you're cutting up close to a double back like that, never cut here on top. Always get underneath if you can. You'll have much better luck because that's fairly clean, and lots of times if you cut here, it'll rip down the double back, and that's big trouble. Let me get some electrodes. These are 15 millimeter electrodes, but we'll put them on 12 millimeter. We'll have to get an electrode holder, but you can buy holders at your science supply house. Now, if you get right in here on this, I want to show this is a 15 millimeter electrode, so we're going to 12 millimeter glass, which electrode is quite a good bit larger than the glass. So what I'm going to do, maybe I better take this off. What I'm going to do is heat this first, and it will fall down to about 12 millimeter. In other words, it will shrink. So I'll heat this a little more than the 12 millimeter. See it can get smaller. Boy. Now we're gonna get matches up. I got it a little black, but that, okay, we have tubulation glass. This is, I believe this is 6 millimeter. This is the glass we put on the tube to pump the air out and to let the neon gas or the argon gas, whichever, into the tube. This is what we call a tubulation. On the DACO fires, we have what we call a tubulation tip. Somewhere, there it is. How can I do that? Like this. Okay, that swings out, and you can just hold it in one spot so you get the right side hole you want. Blow out slightly. Take it out. And blow it out. Okay, we'll get into that deeper later on. Swing our tip back and heat the end of this. Now this piece of glass is cold. This is hot. So what we have to do is heat this first, because if we heat them together, this is going to fall apart before this ever gets hot. So that's what I'll do now. I'll get this good and hot, get it red, and bring this to it. Match it up. Hold my finger over the end a little bit. Heat it. And blow it out a little bit. Now we don't have to temper this because we put it on to a hot piece of glass. If we had Now we don't have to temper this because we put it on to a hot piece of glass. If we had put it over here, then we'd have to temper the back side after we got our tubulation on. Okay, Put our other I got this piece of, I cut this a little short, so I'll weld another piece on, and I believe I went through and showed you how to make a double back on a weld. If I didn't, we'll do it now. Heat the glass exactly like we would for a double back and forth. Okay, heat it so it's red all the way around, touch it together. Make your weld. Now let's go back in and heat from this side to this side. Don't heat the weld. Don't double cross the weld. So you think you've got it heated evenly, then you go ahead and just make a double back. Cut it off. Another piece of tubulation glass. Another electrode. Let me trim that a little bit. It didn't come off exactly perfect, so that's much better. Shrink it down and go ahead and put the electrode on. Okay, we'll go on to the cut it off right here. Okay, put your glass on your pattern and make a marker on the pattern and bring your other unit over. Above your mark and cut it off. Now if this weld doesn't match up, we'll get the hand torch and we'll make it match. That's pretty close. But I want to heat it at this point and bring it up. Well, you can't see it, maybe. Okay, that's very good. Now, only thing that is left to do is to put the unit together. Put my blowholes on the end. Let me get my other blowholes on it. Into the fire. like a well. Sheesh. It's hard to talk and keep your blowholes in the mouth, but we'll try. That should be a good unit.